All right. Hello and welcome everyone to the My Vote Matters Student Voter Prep Rally. We're so glad to be here and we're so glad you could join us this evening. I know a lot of folks are on spring break right now, so really glad that you could join us. I just want to say hi and welcome to some of the folks that are attending. Emily, a former educator from Grosse Pointe, Lorinda from Rockford High. Welcome, welcome. Kelly from Sterling Heights, Lori, a community member from Huntington Woods. We're so glad you're here. Nancy Petoskey, homeschool parent, welcome. Thank you so much for joining us. Before we get started, I just want to give a shout out and a thank you to our partners in the My Vote Matters challenge. That would be the Michigan Center for Civic Education, When We All Vote, Inspire to Vote, and League of Women Voters Michigan. Thank you. My name is Sarah Reinhart, and I am with the Michigan Department of State. I am an analyst for Secretary of State Jocelyn Benson, taking point on our youth engagement programs. So helping to take point on the My Vote Matters Voter Registration Challenge initiative, and so glad to be here with all of you tonight. So we can go ahead and get started. This is just an overview of our agenda for tonight. We're doing our welcome, which we just did, and then we'll watch a video presentation from Secretary of State Jocelyn Benson. Then we'll go into an overview of the My Vote Matters High School Voter Registration Challenge. We'll talk about some of the current rankings and standings for high schools in Michigan. Then we'll watch a really great presentation from Tufts University. And then we'll hear from one of your fellow students here in Michigan about voter registration and demystifying the voter registration process in high schools. Then we'll hear from our friends at League of Women Voters and Inspire to Vote about building a successful voter registration campaign. And then we'll have a little question and answer session. So if you have any questions at any point in tonight's session, feel free to throw them in the chat or the Q&A feature. And when we get to the end of the agenda, we can go through some of those and answer them out loud. So, all right, let's get started. We're going to start off tonight with a message from Secretary of State Jocelyn Benson. Unfortunately, she couldn't be here with us tonight, but we do have a recorded message from her. So I'm going to go ahead and play that. Give me a thumbs up, Judy, if you can hear it.
Hi, I'm Jocelyn Benson, Michigan Secretary of State, and I'm proud to invite your school to participate in the My Vote Matters High School Voter Registration Challenge. As you know, there are myriad educational benefits to engaging young people in their communities and in our democracy. And now it's easier than ever to get involved. Young people can register to vote at 17 and a half years old and automatically be eligible to vote when they turn 18. To incentivize school participation and student enthusiasm, your schools may earn gold, silver, or bronze awards for the voter registration rate you achieve. My office will provide resources and serve as a partner to make it easy for your school to participate. I hope your school and students participate in the My Vote Matters High School Voter Registration Challenge. By working together, we can educate students of all ages about civic participation and our democracy.
All right, a big thanks to Secretary Benson for that important message. And we'll roll right into the program overview. So the My Vote Matters High School Voter Registration Challenge is really a first of its kind effort here in the state of Michigan to encourage high school students across the state to vote. And of course, to encourage the great spirit of competition that we have here in the state of Michigan. Already, this is the first semester that we're doing this program, and maybe a little over halfway through the school year, and already we have over 70 participating high schools in this program, which I'll defer to our Inspire to Vote friends on this who help us run the program, but they also run this program in a few other states across the country. And I believe we may be blowing some of the other states out of the water with that number. So that's really awesome that we have that high of a participation rate already. But we're always looking to have more schools join the challenge. It's not too late. You have until May 27th to sign up your school. And you can even sign up the day before if you want to get your school signed up the day before. You're welcome to do so, and you can get students registered even in that one day. So still actively seeking more schools to join the challenge. So once you sign up, once the school signs up, you'll have to have a administrator or a teacher sign up your school. And there's a sign up form that they can complete for your school to join. And once they sign up, they will receive a package of resources mailed to them by Inspire to Vote. And it contains a couple different things. It contains like a resource guide. It contains pledge cards for the pledge to vote. And we'll go through that in just a minute. And a couple other resources as well. And we also have a great repository on our website of resources. And I'd really like to go over that here for just a moment, just to show everyone what it looks like and what kind of resources are available out there for folks who enroll in this program and competition. So if you go to Michigan.gov/MIVoteMatters, and I'll type that in the chat here too, so everyone has that link. Michigan.gov/MIVoteMatters. This is what you're going to see. And if you scroll down, you'll see this list of menu here. You can learn more about the challenge. This is a great resource for students when they're registering. If they want to do it online, they can click this button and it'll take them to the Inspire to Vote webpage where they can not only register, but they can complete an online pledge card. And this button here is where teachers and administrators can go to sign up their school to join the challenge. And here is the resource guide. And I'm going to show you what that looks like as it's loading. So this is a collection of resources that we've pulled together for teachers, for students, for anyone who's interested in participating in the challenge. And it contains classroom and planning materials that you'll also receive in the mail from Inspire to Vote. It contains the online version of a lot of those resources. It contains a step-by-step guide for students to get registered to vote. They can register online, they can register using print-off forms, and then they can complete their pledge to vote. They can also do that online or using printable forms. And that's how we track students who register to vote. So that's how you all get credit for those registrations. So that's a really important step. So don't forget it. And it outlines all of it here in this resource guide. And then an optional step 3 is for students to complete an absent voter ballot application. Of course, that's entirely optional. If a student wants to vote from home, they're welcome to fill that out and they'll have a ballot mailed to their home. Or if they're excited to go to the polls on election day, which a lot of folks are, and I totally understand that, they're more than welcome to do that instead. So continuing through our resource guide here, we also have flyers and graphics for you all to use and share to help educate your students or your peers in your school about the opportunity to register to vote and about the challenge. And also some of those graphics and flyers that we have on here are intentionally left blank so that you can go and access them and fill out your own information about your own voter registration drives and events. And then we have some additional resources, and I'll scroll down here so you can see. So these are the classroom planning materials. This is the student registration guide. It breaks it out real easy in steps and has links to the online pledge card, the online voter registration. Here's flyers and graphics for you all, and some of the blank flyers are right here. And then some additional resources. You can check your voter registration status if a student isn't sure if they're already registered or not. You can apply to become a poll worker. In Michigan, folks only have to be 16 years of age in order to serve as a poll worker, and it is a hired and paid position. A lot of students find that really appealing when they find out that they do get paid for doing it. And it's you go to a training and you get paid for that, and then you work on election day, and it is a long day, but you do get compensated for it. So that's a great opportunity even for students who aren't already registered to vote. Let's see here. And the League of Women Voters information here, and their vote411.org website, which our League of Women Voters partner will talk about a little bit later. All right, and then last but not least in this resource guide, there's some elections information. Participating in elections, we don't want it to be an intimidating process, but I understand that for a lot of first-time voters, it can be. So we tried to break down in this guide for students and for educators, a really easy how-to breakdown of voting, when to vote, how to vote, what your options are, and what some of the timelines are for different elections. So this is our resource guide. We really want you guys to check it out, use it. If you have any questions, feel free to reach out, and we're happy to support you in your efforts to get students registered and be as helpful as possible. So moving on. These are our current rankings for high schools as of March 24th, so just a couple days ago. And I broke it down based on high school size. So you can see that for schools that have more than 100 seniors, Battle Creek High School is in first place, followed by Chippewa Valley High School and Alpine High School. Do we have anyone from any of those schools on? If you do, if you're here, you should shout out in the chat because I think you've earned some bragging rights, but we'll see if you can hold on to that spot. All right, and then 100 seniors or less, these are our rankings as well. So congratulations to those schools. Again, fingers crossed you can hold on to those spots. We'll see what happens. So after all is said and done this semester, we're going to be tallying up the number of students that have been registered to vote at each high school, and we will hold an awards ceremony in the fall of 2022 for schools that have registered more than 90% or above of eligible high school seniors. They're going to get a gold award. 70% and up will earn silver, and 50% and up is bronze. So these schools will receive additional recognition for registering eligible students. So very exciting. All right, and I went over this a little bit earlier, but this is how you participate. You get your school signed up. Again, that has to be a school administrator or a teacher that signs up your school. And then step 2 is just start getting students registered. And we'll talk more about planning a voter registration drive for your school a little later in today's presentation. All right, next we have a presentation from Tufts University about youth voting and civic engagement. So Kay, I'll hand it over to you. And I have control of the slides here, so just let me know whenever you want me to advance a slide and I'll do that for you.
Sounds great. Thank you, Sarah. And good evening, everybody. It's so nice to be here. My name is Kay Kawashima Ginsburg. I'm the director of CIRCLE, which stands for Center for Information and Research on Civic Learning and Engagement at Tufts University. I'm here to talk a little bit about the state of youth voting in Michigan and Midwest, and talk a little bit about myths and facts that might be related to youth voting and voter engagement generally. And finally, I want to give you some recommendations for both young people and adult supporters based on the research we've done in relation to youth civic engagement. Next slide, please. So starting off with really great news, Michigan knows how to rock the vote. Both in 2018 midterms and 2020 presidential election, young people generally shown really great increase in voter turnout. 28% in 2018. Nationally may look low, but this compares to 13% in 2014. So it's actually increasing. But Michigan really surpassed the national average by voting by 33%, 17% increase from 2014. Similar trend here in 2020 as well, surpassing national average at 54% turnout and increased in double digit. Now let's go to the next slide and give you a little bit bigger overview of what the Midwestern votes look like. I'm sure you care. So you can see, and this is true to national trend, turnout actually ranges quite a bit, even in a given year, like presidential election. In Midwest alone, it ranges from 32% to 65%. Now, Michigan ranked third within Midwest, but if you look at the increase between 2016 and 2020, you're one of the top states, only surpassed by Kansas, who did not turn out at as high of a rate. So doing great, Michigan. So please keep up the good work. Let's go to the next slide. One of the things we hear a lot from young people about why they don't vote, even if they're already registered or when they say they don't want to register, is that my votes don't matter. So I'm not going to do that. Now, there's a lot of research-based facts that are actually going to counter that. So first, when you say the Congress is so huge, there's like 700,000 of us that's representing all of us in Michigan's district. It's actually just 0.1% of all the people that are elected into office in the United States. There are actually about 500,000 people that are elected by the citizens of the United States. And when we think about the local elected officials, there's about 1 in 1,000 or so that's serving as an elected official. So of course they hear your voice and you matter when you look at the local election especially. And elections can be really, really close sometimes. It happens at the congressional level once in a while where there's like a single digit vote difference at the congressional race, but much more often at the local races where you might be looking at a school committee vote, where your votes, if you talk to 20 more people, if you registered 15 more registrants in the community, that alone can make a big difference. I had this happen in my own local community where I just canvassed for maybe 3 or 4 weeks in my neighborhood, and it was instrumental in talking to people, sometimes for the first time, about local election. And finally, people sometimes think, oh, I don't know what they're deciding at the local elections. I don't know what they do. Maybe it's not something that I care about. That's usually not true. The local issues are sometimes the most relevant issues to young people. For instance, what kind of books and curriculum can be in your social studies? There's a big debate about that right now. Or how the budget can be allocated, big or small, to affordable housing in the community. Young people have a lot of issue with affordable housing in many communities, and that kind of issues really are decided at that local level. So let's go to the next slide to go to the fact, which is that the young people are in fact really underrepresented, especially in the local election. So I took great data from MIVoteMatters for Mayor project at the Portland State University to look at Detroit. The only city that's represented in this project, because it needs to be pretty large. What it shows on the graph is that the people that are age 35 and under represent about a third of eligible population in Detroit. However, they represent less than 10% of votes in the mayoral election. So that gives 65 plus citizens 10 times the power over people that are under 35 in choosing who you're going to represent as mayor or local elected officials. And median age of the local election in Detroit was 57. So don't miss elections. Definitely have your voice heard. Even if a young 18-year-old, you do matter. And importantly, young people have the expertise and direct knowledge of what's happening in those things like schools and local communities, parks, and other infrastructure, where your voice and your input should be taken seriously. Let's go to the next slide. Another myth that this is coming a lot from adults and older people is that young people don't care, they're apathetic. Again, there's lots of facts that counter that. Young people's engagement is increasing not just in the voter turnout that I just showed, but in other things like participating in movements and protests and making direct advocacy efforts within their communities. They're also donating more to causes and campaigns. They're also doing more direct action, like actually helping friends register to vote, and encouraging people to really think about political and social issues. So there's a lot of things that young people are doing to promote democracy more broadly. So they do care deeply. And the highest turnout population, the boomers, are often very proud. I am proud of you too, boomers. I am a member of Gen X, and they are a really high turnout group. But when we look at how Gen Z, who are now 18 to 25 as a voter bloc, voted as the young people, they actually voted at the higher rate than the boomers at the same age in 1972. So this is a generation that's really, really engaged. And finally, when young people say democracy doesn't really work, they mean many things, like it's not meeting its promise, or other countries are doing much better job with true meaning of democracy. So it's not really working for me. But I almost never hear in research and in personal connection with the young people that I really actually don't care about fairness and democratic principles. So they do care deeply. Let's move into the next slide just to talk about a few things that you can do to help advance our democratic engagement, including voting and registration. So first, if you are a student out here or a young person, you have a very special superpower called peer-to-peer engagement. The research shows that young people who can engage their friends and family are actually most effective because the young people get most of their election information from people that are closest in their circle. That's friends and family. So if you are the person that's already politically and civically engaged, you are that friend in the know who can help other friends. Right. And with the training that you're getting from state of Michigan and Inspired to Vote, you can have that accurate information that you can share. And that's a real tool that you have. So I hope you use that as ambassadors of election, especially to communities of color and newly eligible voters, where we find a lot of misinformation and misunderstanding about, especially about who's eligible to vote and when. Let's go to the next slide. And I have a few recommendations for supportive adults too. Guidance of a supportive adults who have experience with voting and registration is of course critical. I really would encourage older adults and mentors in the community to help student leaders figure out where to fit the voter registration in their school day. Students often don't know exactly how the school functions, so administrators and educators can be a great partner in that. As a school administrators, you really should be in touch with the local election officials to really have a clear understanding of what's okay, what's not okay to do on campus, and proactively communicate with your parents and families, please. So I think it's really important for families to know what's going on. And then finally, I want to tell you our research shows that if students remember learning about voting and registration while in high school, they're actually 40% more likely to vote as young adults. So you do have an impact by helping to move many students from non-voters to voters while they're in high school. Thank you so much.
All right, thank you. That was some excellent information. I liked especially the part talking about how young people have a superpower, and that's called peer-to-peer and education and information providing. Critically important, we know that. So thank you so much for that presentation, really great. All right, next we're moving into demystifying in-school voter registration. We have a special guest here today. Jeremiah, are you with us?
Yes, I am.
Great, Jeremiah is going to talk about his experience, their experience with high school voter registration in school. Go for it.
Thank you. Good day, everyone. Before I get started, I want to say thank you to Secretary Benson, partners, and the My School Votes program for giving me this amazing opportunity to speak on youth engagement in politics and voting. Thank you for creating the MIVoteMatters High School Voter Registration Challenge. Many people ask why I advocate for voting rights for the youth and young adults. Voting is the most liberating American thing there is to do. And as youth and young adults, voting at the eligible age is very important. We have the power to decide who will be leading our city, state, or country, and what agenda, rules, and laws will be implemented. Candidates and elected officials have overlooked us or ignored us because we haven't been organized. We vote in low numbers and inconsistently, but that is changing, as we have heard earlier. With programs like this that encourage us to vote, put the system in place to do it every year, and allows us to lead and talk to our peers, we can continue to grow our power. Us youth advocating and teaching about voting rights and its importance to our fellow youth and young adults will make a more significant impact on how we view voting and how important it is. My school votes is a leading example of that. We work vigorously to teach and lead our fellow youth on how to register to vote and the importance of doing so and following through with voting. Adding on to my last statement, youth being involved in politics is very crucial. When elected officials sign up to be a leader of our beloved city, state, or country, they have also signed up to represent and lead us youth. Keeping us involved in decision making and even getting our opinion on laws and decisions being made is important to shaping the future of our beloved nation. We can also do this with increased voting power. Leading voter registration and civic engagement work in our schools will teach us youth how to conduct ourselves in the future for the betterment of ourselves, others, and our beloved country. Why wait for change? We can start now. You can all do this. We can do this. Get some friends and some classmates together, build a plan to go to the seniors in their classrooms, practices, clubs, and talk to them. It's simple. And you can do this like we're doing it at Renaissance High School in Detroit. It is hard work and it takes time, but it's worth it. Our vote is worth it. Thank you for Michigan Secretary of State for building the MIVoteMatters High School Voter Registration Challenge to recognize us. Thank you.
Thanks so much, Jeremiah. I was on a different conference the other day, and one of the speakers that was there said to the audience something that stuck with me, and that your words reminded me of, Jeremiah, which is that when you vote, not only are you voting for what's on the ballot, but you're voting for your own power. And what you said about the youth vote really reminded me of that. So great job, really great job. All right, next up, building a voter registration campaign in your school. We have Judy Florian, Vice President of Voter Services from League of Women Voters, Michigan.
Thanks, Sarah. Thank you, everyone, for attending this evening. I'd like to tell you a little bit about the League and how we fit into this process. The League of Women Voters is a nonpartisan organization which just celebrated 102 years of defending democracy. We have a long-standing history of educating and inspiring voters. The League empowers the students that are here tonight to stand up and make the most of their right to vote. We feel it is vital to reach out to America's future voters while they are still in high school. We are very fortunate to have an incredibly active League here in Michigan, with 31 local leagues operating around the state. One of our priority activities is working with local high schools to help plan their voter registration events for seniors. We have a seasoned crew of volunteers who each spring and fall provide guidance to high school principals and teachers on how to conduct a successful voter registration event. When you sign up for the challenge, a League of Women Voters member in your area will contact you to help set up your event. Our League members will come into the high schools, provide presentations, handouts, voter registration forms, and other resources to help you get students registered. If you already have an event that you do annually, we're more than happy to come in and help you with registering the students. Michigan experienced major changes in our election laws in 2018. Two of these changes are, one, same-day voter registration. You can now register to vote right up to and on election day and complete your ballot at that time. No reason absentee voting, and Sarah referred to absentee voting earlier. All registered voters in Michigan can now vote using an absentee ballot. You don't need an excuse and you don't need a reason. You can vote by absentee ballot through the mail without leaving your home. You can also go to your city or township clerk's office or drop box to leave your absentee ballot. And we recommend that if you're going to return the ballot within 2 weeks of election day, that you turn it in to the clerk to avoid possible mail delays. We continue to educate the public on these changes. Election laws can be very confusing, and our members have the expertise to explain Michigan election law to your students and hope to demystify the process. And as Sarah pointed out earlier, the Secretary of State has an excellent website with incredible resources at your disposal. Our league members are also engaged regularly with our local clerks. Many times we have local clerks come to the registration events at the high schools, and they can take the registration forms back and get them processed quickly. Also, many of our members serve as poll workers on election day, so they know the voting procedures and they also know about the security of our election process. As Sarah mentioned earlier, the League also has an excellent resource, an online voter guide called Vote 411. With this guide, you can see what's on your ballot, you can confirm and check that you're registered, and also find your polling place for election day. Vote 411 can be accessed as vote411.org. I encourage you to visit our website at lwvmi.org to see if there's a local league in your area. And if you have questions, don't hesitate to contact us by email at office@lwvmi.org. We look forward to working with you students and also teachers and administrators to help you with a successful event. Thank you.
Thanks so much, Judy. When we first launched the program and began doing outreach to high schools across the state, one of the things I heard back from administrators the most was that they already work with League of Women Voters, their local league, to get high school students registered. So you all are just doing excellent work across the state, an invaluable resource to schools and school districts in Michigan. So thank you so much for your work. All
Thanks,
right.
Sarah.
Sure thing. Moving forward, Meg Carroll, program coordinator at Inspire to Vote, is going to talk about running a voter registration program at your school and some best practices to make it as successful as possible. Meg, I'll hand it off to you.
Thank you so much, Sarah, and thank you all for being here. I work with Inspire to Vote, and for the past, since 2014, we have been working within schools to help support voter registration events, and I wanted to share some of the best practices that we have found. This has already been mentioned a lot in this rally so far because it's really important that peer-led voter registrations are the way to go. We believe that students should be at the forefront of the planning and the running of these events. Our research shows that students that are registered by their peers are 2 times more likely to go out and vote. So we highly encourage that. Another best practice that we have found is having classroom presentations. So typical tabling events can be very fun and exciting, but students, you may want to consider identifying classes that have primarily seniors and then asking those teachers if they could allow you to take 20 minutes to present to them and then register those students. We find that having a captive audience helps to register more students. Another best practice that we have found is having multiple voter registration drives throughout the year. It might be great to have one in the fall, maybe having it go along with National Voter Registration Day, and getting those students who are eligible at that point and are 17 and a half registered, and hopefully then having them vote in that November election. But we also then suggest holding another one maybe in the springtime, and that way you can then make sure you register all those students who weren't eligible in the fall but are now, and that way you are getting everyone that most possible to register. And then another best practice that we have found is having a supply checklist. So making sure before you run your event, you have a list of everything you need. A lot of those things are going to be what we send in the action kit or what you use in that guide that Sarah was explaining earlier. So making sure you just have a list that you have your registration forms, your pledge cards, stickers, pens, and that way when you're going to run your event, you have everything you need and you make sure you're ready.
And Meg, oh, sorry to interrupt. I just want to quickly say this little circle over here. If you wanted to share your photos of your voter registration drive, maybe your table or signs, if you're particularly proud of them, you can share those on social media if you're comfortable with that, with hashtag MIVoteMatters, and you might get a retweet or reshare from the Michigan Department of State account. don't hesitate to share those photos. Thanks.
Great. No, yeah, and that is a great segue to our last best practice that I want to share, which is really just making sure that you advertise your event in advance. A big thing to remind students is to bring their ID, whether that is a driver's license or a state issued ID, so they have that on the day of the drive. Using social media, maybe having different clubs within your school and having them use their platforms to get the message out. You can also utilize your school announcements, hanging up posters. It can be helpful to have posters with these QR codes that you see here, and that way students can just really easily use that and get linked to the registration page right away. And yeah, just using maybe even teachers' bulletin boards to just get out the word in as many ways possible. Thank you so much. I'm excited to see the impact that you all have.
Thanks so much, Meg. Really informative, really appreciate your presentation. The QR codes that were on that, that last page, I'll go back here. If you go to Michigan.gov/MIVoteMatters in the resource guide, you will see a lot of pre-made posters that include this QR code that takes you directly online to the Inspire to Vote website, which will allow you to register to vote online and complete your online pledge to vote, which is again how we track those voter registrations. So don't skip that step. One thing that's really important to know is that when students go online to register and vote, they will need to have a valid Michigan driver's license or ID number with them. And in addition to that, they will need to know the last few digits of their social security number, and that's for online registration. If students would like to register to vote by using a printed out form, so just pen and paper, you only need one or the other. So you don't need to have both your driver's license or state of Michigan ID number and a social security number. You would only need one. But for the online registration, you do need both. All right, so let's talk about next steps. So if your school is not already signed up to be part of the challenge, you can go to Michigan.gov/MIVoteMatters. You're going to be hearing me say that a lot tonight if you haven't already noticed. And you can select sign up your school. And again, it has to be a teacher or administrator to do that. So if you're a student and your school is not already enrolled, you can contact a teacher, contact your principal. You could even send an email to your superintendent if you wanted to, and ask them to sign up your school so you can be part of the challenge. I saw someone asked in the chat just a little bit ago what the link was to view schools. I had that on another page. There is a link on the Inspire to Vote webpage where you can view a list of all of the schools who have enrolled in the challenge. So if you're curious as to whether or not your school is already enrolled, you can visit that page and you will be able to see if your school's name is on there. And that'll be on one of the previous slides. I can go back here in just a second and show that link. Next step after that, plan your school's voter registration drive, whether it's a teacher, an administrator, or student-led voter registration. We encourage them all, but of course, we've learned here today that peer-to-peer voter registration, one student telling another student, hey, you should sign up to vote, or, voting school, that is the most effective way to get students engaged in the civic democratic process. And next step after that, access the resources. We want to make this as easy as possible for you all to get students registered and to participate in the program and be successful. So we've provided a lot of resources for you, but if you need if you have additional questions that the resources that we've provided don't address, or you just need additional support, don't hesitate to reach out to our office and we can connect you with the resources that you need. We can connect you with your local League of Women Voters chapter, and they'll be able to help you run that successful registration drive. And then finally, register. So again, The My Vote Matters Spring Challenge ends May 27th. So everyone has until that date to register as many students as possible. We know a lot of schools are waiting until the later half of the semester in order to allow as many students to age into that 17 and a half age range for registration. So whenever we get to that event that you all are hosting for registrations, just hit the ground running, register, whether it's online, whether it's filling out paper forms, we're here for it. And finally, don't forget, I'll say it one last time, visit Michigan.gov/MyVoteMatters. All right, and now we're at the Q&A. So I'm gonna stop sharing here momentarily. I saw that there were a few questions in the chat. So one of them had to do with that link to view all of the schools. I think, Tammy, did you put it in there? To view all the schools that are participating.
Yes, I put it in there, so it should be good to go. And we'll update it again next week. So we'll try to update that every week. And then the rankings will come in at the more towards the end of the month, next month. So you'll be able to go on and see where your school is ranked.
Very good. Okay, so I'm going to throw out some questions here. So I've heard from a lot of schools that we've been doing outreach to, encouraging participation in the program, that they've already done some registration of students prior to signing up. So how can they get credit for those students that they've previously registered in the semester?
Tammy, I can take that one.
Okay.
Yep, I can take that one. Right, so it's great if you've got your students already registered. The way we can track towards the award is by filling out a pledge card. And so we can either send you paper pledge cards, or the students can go online and fill out a pledge card. And it just gives basic information just so we can track that how many students you have registered and count that towards the award. I'll put the link of the pledge in here so that in case you want that.
That's great. Thank you, Tammy.
And I should mention too, the online registration, the Inspire to Vote online, it does have a pledge card built into it. So you fill out the pledge card first, and then it will redirect you to the Michigan State's voter registration, online voter registration. So both of those have to be filled out in order, one for the pledge card to track, and then two, the Michigan's voter registration form so that you're actually registered to vote.
Got it. Well, that's great. Thank you. All right. So next question. Once a student is registered, how do they know that they're registered? Is there any kind of confirmation that they receive, or what can they do to confirm that they are registered? And actually, I think I can probably answer that one. So once students are registered, they're going to receive a registration confirmation in the mail, and that should have some of their information on it, including their precinct location. You can also visit Michigan.gov/vote. That's different than the other website I've been talking about here today. The Michigan.gov/vote, and I will put that in the chat. So if you go there after you are registered to vote, you have a full list of options, and one of them is check if I'm registered or check my registration status. And if you click that, it'll take you to your voter information profile. And so that'll tell you if you're registered to vote. It'll tell you if where your polling place is. It'll also tell you what district you're in, which those who are already registered, by the way, this past year was a redistricting cycle. So your district may have changed. So you should also look up, even if you are already registered, if you're still in the same district or not within the next couple of months here. And you can also see where your clerk's office is too, if you look up your information that way. So that's another way that students can go on there and check to see if their registration has been processed. All right, I see that there is another question in the chat from Lori. Her question is, as community members, we are trying to get our local schools enrolled. You've reached out to teachers, students, and admins, but are still having trouble getting commitment and follow through. Seems like teachers might be a little busy. Imagine that. So do we have any recommendations or suggestions for getting commitment and follow through? What grade of student is best to reach out to? And Jeremiah, did you have a response to that?
Yeah, I did. Well, like I was saying, it's very difficult to get students to kind of engage and kind of really pertain to what we're talking about sometimes. Kind of like adding on to what you said previously, we kind of tend to feel that our voice or our vote doesn't matter. Because for some of us, that's what we've been told for so long, that we should just wait till we're older to start making a difference in how we see things. But I would kind of break it to them just like that. Break it to the students just as it is. For a long time, we've been told that we can't, but now we can. And we're being told that we can. So let's use this to our advantage. And I think another way would be possibly is we're probably getting a little confused on what it is that we're voting for or what it is that we're going to vote for. So even breaking it down for our students on behalf of what we're voting for, how it's going to work, maybe even showing what we're going to be looking at in terms of ballots will go a long way into getting student engagement. And as I've also said, having students go on one-on-one. So engaging with each one another. So, someone their age, talking to someone their age could also make a significant impact. I feel I listen a little more attentively when someone's my age is talking to me. And it may just because we have that language barrier that we got going on where we just kind of talk a little differently. But that still goes to show that we can make a significant impact with one another, So that's just some of my ideas on how I would get students involved.
That was great. Very excellent, Jeremiah. Very good advice. And Tammy or Meg, from like a educator or administrator perspective as well, do you have recommendations on getting some follow through on that end too?
Yeah, one of the questions was, do we focus on seniors? And definitely focus on seniors, because most of seniors will be 17 and a half by the end of this year. So a lot of schools are waiting till this, like you had said, till the end of this semester, because that's when they'll capture most of the students at 17 and a half. We try to reach out to like the ASB or the different clubs. I think Jeremiah had mentioned clubs. We focus on government, maybe advanced placement, AP government teachers. So those normally have seniors, maybe a senior English. So we try to focus on those types of classes that mostly have seniors and go in. And we've had schools register 500 students in one day because they just focused on all the senior classes. Pretty large school, but it can be done.
Thank you, Tammy. And Ellen, with the Center for Civic Education, I saw that you had your hand up. Did you have a comment on that as well?
Yeah, absolutely. This is a very important question to address. And so there are probably 3 additional pieces we'd like to add. And the first one is really why we're all here together. And that is the question of how you're doing the ask. So if the ask is, will you do a voter registration drive? That does absolutely feel overwhelming to teachers and administrators. If the ask is, could you open the door or provide 20 minutes so we could come in and help facilitate this, then that becomes much easier for the teachers and the administrators to say, oh my gosh, yes, absolutely. And then you can say, by the way, did you know that the Secretary of State's office is really promoting and honoring the work that you're doing? So there's ways to, dovetail a good ask in terms of managing the load that it takes to make this happen, along with the incentive and the recognition for the school, which really is in their own best interest. The second, and I would echo the idea of clubs, and there might be some related speech and debate clubs or mock trial or other engagement programs or civic literacy clubs. Those might be the easy inroads to say, hey, what kind of clubs do exist? or look for any of the teachers in particular that might be running some of those programs, because they might already be at school doing some of that extra work, and they could say, oh my gosh, yes, this is a fairly easy ask, especially given the resources that the Secretary of State is putting behind the work. And then finally, I would say, feel free to tell us the school that you're in, because we might be able to help in some way. So lean on us. This is an amazing group of people who have some of the connections, and they might be able to go with you to do an ask, or just be there with you as an ask. Or you could say, hey, who might you know in this district already that believes in the power of the youth vote that would be interested in that? And so I would say lean on us as well.
Great points, Ellen. Thank you. All right, next question. When teachers or students collect those voter registration forms, where should they send those, and how do they send those? Tammy or Meg, do you want to take that one?
Sure, yeah. So we have a couple options. So sometimes teachers will hand deliver those to the county elections auditor's office. But also we have the resource that you can request prepaid shipping labels from us. So we will cover that cost and give you that label. So all you have to do is put it in the mail and stick it on and send it to that auditor. So that is how that's done.
Perfect. Sounds easy. All right.
I'm sorry, I just want to, so
Judy.
a lot of times the league will deliver those as well, right, Judy? If the league is helping you and assisting you, they'll take the forms and get those to the elections auditor's office, and then they'll work with us to have the pledge cards to us. So we'll make sure they get taken care of.
Awesome. Like to make it as easy as possible for those participating. An additional way that you can deliver them to a clerk, if you know what clerk all of the forms need to go to and their actual paper forms, you can scan and email those most of the time. Clerks will accept that. You just have to find the clerk's email address, and it has to be more than 15 days prior to an election for them to be able to accept that. But it can be done that way too. All right. Well, those are all the questions I have. If anyone else has any other questions, feel free to throw them in the chat, or you can email me. I will type my email address in the chat as well. Just as a resource, if you have any questions about the challenge, if you have questions about voter registration or elections, consider myself and really everyone on this presentation a resource to you and your schools. Like I've said all along, we want to make this as easy as possible for you to be successful. So thank you again, everyone, for attending tonight's presentation. Really appreciate your presence, especially when I know a lot of us are on spring break right now. So have a great spring break, everyone who's on spring break. And if you're not, have a great rest of your week. Thanks so much again to all of our partners who joined us for this evening's event. And take care. Happy registrations, everyone.